I'm one of the environmental beat reporters, and my story this past 2 weeks, was on the recent development plans for the Ithaca Gun Factory site, or the area around the Ithaca Gun Factory site, and as well as the environmental concerns that the gun factory has posed over the last many decades. This company called DMG Investments submitted a proposal to the Ithaca Planning Board to build townhouses near the site, but one of the issues with the site is there has been a lot of concerns of lead contamination over the past several decades. The site was founded in the latter half of the 19th century, and it existed until basically the 1980s. They produced over 300,000 guns during World War II. And once the site closed down, there were efforts made to try and redevelop it. Eventually they tore down the site. All that's left now is the smokestack, which is a very iconic part of the factory. But one of the issues that happened was there's a lot of lead contamination in the site, because how they used to have to test the guns was they would have a firing range where they would have to fire off the guns a certain number of times to make sure that they worked before they could be sold into production. And part of the issue with that was that the lead shots used were left in the soil and were contaminated the soil, not only of the site, but through erosion and wind and rain were swept downhill into Ithaca Falls, which is a very common walking area for Ithacans in the area. But it's been such a major issue because the EPA has made a lot of efforts to try and clean it up, but every time they do a cleanup effort, it doesn't do anything. They clean and remove soil, and then they just discover even more lead contamination. It just keeps going and going and going, and it does not end. It just happens over and over. It's very cyclical. I think how invested people are in this issue is very interesting to me. Walter Hang, one of my sources, he, as I said, is a huge environmental activist, and he has a lot of passion for this issue. And if you start to learn about the issue or read my story, then you will definitely understand why, because this is such a huge issue and it's been so overlooked. I mean, there is lead in Ithaca Falls contaminating our community. One of my favorite pictures that I took for the story was that while I was walking through Ithaca Falls with Walter Hang, he reached into one of the sections that there are these signs there that warn about lead contamination in the falls, and he reached into one of those sections and found a fragment of a shotgun shell from factory production, which is absolutely insane. You think with cleanup efforts that there would be no remnants of anything like that, but the fact that he found a piece of a shotgun shell that still is likely contaminated with lead, to me, is absolutely mind-blowing. It's just one of those issues that is very important to the community, to those who know about it, but for those who don't know about it, it's like this sleeping beast that is only going to create more issues the longer it's left sleeping.